On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers have built the NBA's best offense so far. How are guys like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and Evan Mobley doing that? Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my new Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about the Locked On Cavs podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, make sure they're subscribed. Also, the show is available on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs on YouTube. If you're watching this video right now, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the Cleveland Cavaliers have gotten off to a better start on the offensive end of the floor than anyone could have imagined. I think if you are an everyday listener to this show, you know that I was very high on this Cavs team coming into the season. I thought they were going to be better than many of the sports books projected, than many of the big major, sports media outlets projected. I was very high on this Cavs team, but I didn't think this Cavs team would look like this soon. And is part of it the fact that they've played three pretty bad teams in Toronto, Detroit, and Washington? Sure, it's part of the equation. But I also think they've beaten two pretty good teams in New York and Los Angeles. And I think that matters too. But the Cavs have won. Yes, they've still played good defense. And they're always going to be a team that is good on that end of the floor with the personnel that they have. They're built to be good defensively. But they've won with offense. Last year, the Cavs had 4 games where they scored 130 or more points. This year, they've played 5 games, and they have 3 games in which they've scored 130 more points. I wouldn't expect them to score 130 or more points in, 65% of the games the way they are right now. But I think it's pretty telling they've already almost matched last year's total. So how are the Cavs doing it? Because one of the cool things about this team, at least in my opinion, is that it's been a different guy every night leading the way. Some nights it's Donovan Mitchell, like against the Lakers on Wednesday night. I thought the start that he had to that game was awesome and really important. And he led the way early. And then Jarrett Allen was kind of in the middle, and Evan Mobley picked it up late. Against the Knicks, Darius Garland had a great close. Like, he was the best player on offense on the floor. Against Toronto, Evan Mobley was the best player on the floor offensively that first game. So this team has been doing it in different ways. And that's been a really cool thing to see. But there are some underlying things that say that I kind of want to play a game like what's sustainable, what's not sustainable. And I've gone through and I've pulled a few stats. And the one that jumps out to me right away is that as of right now, entering play on Friday, the Cavs are shooting the best percentage from beyond the arc of any team in the NBA. They're making 41.4% of their three-pointers. Now, I think there's some things that are worth digging into a little bit deeper there as to whether or not this is sustainable. So let's just focus on the three-point shot for right now. The thing that I'm the most worried about, aside from a couple of guys, like Karis LeVert is shooting 60% from three-point range. I don't need to tell you that's not sustainable. We know no one's going to shoot 63% on the amount of shots he's going to take. Like, that's not going to happen. Evan Mobley shooting 50%. I think he's going to be good, but 50% is not sustainable. So the thing that worries me about the three-point shot is they're shooting 43.7% on above the break threes, which teams don't often look to create above the break threes. They're thought of as a more difficult shot than the corner three-pointer. The Cavs have not taken a ton of above the break threes. Like, they don't rank near the top of the league in attempts, but they are decidedly the best team at shooting them. They're shooting the best percentage. I don't know how long that percentage can stay that high. On the flip side to that, what the Cavs have done really well is generate corner three-pointers. They're entering Friday generating the fourth most corner threes of any team in the NBA. So they're doing a really good job of that. But they're 17th in corner three-point shooting percentage. They're only making 36% of those shots. And the corner three is something that is thought of as, layups are the most efficient shots. Free throws are very efficient shots. But corner threes, kind of where you want to be next. And the Cavs are doing a good job getting those looks. They're not cashing in on those looks. Like, I think that 36% number is a number that can and probably should go up for the Cavs. Like, that's something they should get better at because they're doing a good job getting those looks. They're just not making them that. So that tells me that this offense, while it's looked really, really good, this offense has not yet peaked. They're going to get better because that is one of the things that they can improve upon. And maybe they don't get better because they'll regress in some other areas, but they should have an uptick there. This team has too many good shooters to just not be a great corner three-point shooting team, especially when they're generating as many good looks from that area as they are. They're shooting almost 54% from the floor, which is kind of absurd. I don't know if that's going to keep up, but I think a lot of that speaks to the shot diet that this team has, where they're not taking very many mid-range jump shots. They are taking shots that are beyond the arc and at the rim. That is why they're so successful. They're shooting 71% from inside the restricted area, which is among the league's best. They've been great around the basket. I think they've been doing a great job of getting to the basket. I think a big reason why that number looks so high right now is because of Evan Mobley, because of the aggression that he's played with, because of how he's attacked the rim. I think, one, that he's done a great job of that. I can't not mention Jarrett Allen, who, I don't know if he still does, but I know he entered the game on Wednesday against the Lakers with more blocked shots than missed field goal attempts, which is bonkers to think about. And then I think Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, because of Evan Mobley's aggression and because they're two really good perimeter players, defenses have struggled to defend those guys. I think they've been able to get downhill and they've been able to finish at a really strong clip. And that's a big reason why. And the Cavs are third in the NBA in drives to the basket. Evan Mobley this year, and I don't know what the updated number after the Lakers game is. I would guess it probably went down a little bit just because Evan only played 22 minutes or 20 minutes because of foul trouble. But last year, he averaged like 3.5 drives per game to the basket. He entered the game against the Lakers with 9.3 drives per game to the basket. That number tripling, I think, is the biggest indicator of just how different he's been as an offensive player. That number to me just says, it screams aggression. It screams that this guy has been trying to get downhill, that he's been trying to get to the basket. That's what that number says to me. That is exact. And the eye test matches that. And I understand the game against the Lakers. He didn't play a ton because of foul trouble. And that fourth quarter, not all of the Lakers starters were in. And they went to a zone, and that zone had no chance against Evan Mobley. But he still had to go out and do the job. And he still did go out and do the job. I love how this team's sharing the basketball. And you go look at the box score against the Lakers. Darius Garland had 10 assists. Donovan Mitchell had 7 assists. Those guys are moving the basketball. I think there's so much less isolation in this Cavs offense than we had seen before. The Cavs right now are 5th in the NBA in assists per game. They've been terrific at sharing the basketball. It doesn't stick. I think we're seeing different guys be playmakers. We're seeing Evan in more playmaking opportunities. I brought up a 3-pointer the other day on my Substack that Darius Garland hit against the Knicks that Dean Wade created. And I don't know how many shots Dean Wade was creating for not only others, but even himself at times last year. So to see all that stuff, I think that's making this offense just so much more versatile and so much more difficult to guard. And then one last thing I wanted to bring up here. The Cavs are 2nd in the NBA in steals per game right now. And you're going to immediately say, well, why are you bringing that up? That's a defensive stat. We're talking about how great this offense is. You're right. But creating live ball turnovers like steals allows this offense to get out in transition. And they've been a team that is playing much faster than this group has ever played together. They were 24th in pace last year. They're 8th in pace, at least entering tonight. All the numbers are not in from Thursday night's games. So they have really ratcheted that up. And I think being where they're at in steals has been a big reason why they've been able to do that, and a big reason why that's been able to be successful. So I think all of those things are big reasons why the Cavs offense has been spectacular through the first 5 games of the season. Most of this stuff is sustainable. Like, are they going to shoot 43% from on above the break threes? Probably not. That's probably going to go down. But I would also think that the 36% mark on corner threes should go up. Is Karis LeVert going to shoot 65% from beyond the arc? Absolutely not. Evan Mobley's not going to shoot 50% either. But the regression that those guys have, I think, can be made up for in other areas. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of those other areas next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. I tell you about FanDuel all the time because FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And right now with FanDuel, you can get a great start to the season because what's going on at FanDuel, if your first $5 bet hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. That sounds like a great deal. All you got to do, go out and pick a $5 winner. There's nothing better than being able to cash in on a $5 winner. And it's going to get you, if you're a new customer, $150 in bonus bets back. FanDuel has everything that you could imagine. One of the things that I've talked about that I think the Cavs make a ton of sense for is going after that NBA Cup. I think being in a group with Boston is very exciting. That NBA Cup game is going to be November 19th. The Cavs right now on FanDuel are plus 1,700 to win the NBA Cup. I like that. I think that is great value. The Cavs are in Group C. They are plus 185. They're second behind Boston to win their group. I think that's good value too. I think this Cavs team can do it. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think with how well they're playing early in the season, I think this is pretty good value. I think this would be a place that if you want to browse FanDuel, that might be the place to go. So like I said, head on over to FanDuel because right now with your first $5 bet, if it wins, $150 in bonus bets. That's only at FanDuel. So head on over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com today, and you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop a 5-star rating, leave a nice review, be a friend, and tell a friend about the Locked On Cavs podcast. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed. If you're new to the show, thank you. Welcome. We're very glad to have you here on Locked On Cavs. I will be doing this at least 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. As things do roll along here. So I'm super glad to have you around to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been the best team in basketball so far. Also, you can check the show out on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs on YouTube. If you're watching this video, hit that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Cavs have been awesome on offense. They've been the best offense in basketball. But that doesn't mean it's a finished product because it's not a finished product. I do think it's fair to be surprised about how good this Cavs team has been offensively. I know I'm surprised. I thought they could turn into this. I didn't think they would start out as this because I thought even though this group of guys is the same group of guys as last year, and I really like Kenny Atkinson a lot as a coach, and I think he's a very bright offensive mind. I thought there would be a bigger adjustment period. I thought there would be a rough patch at the start, especially with, and maybe there will be, I don't know. You know, the Cavs have a tough back-to-back starting tonight with Orlando, which I will talk about coming up in segment number 3, and then Milwaukee tomorrow, who's been bad, but still, they have Giannis still. I thought that this would be a rough patch, trying to figure it out on the fly against some really good teams, and so far, they've looked awesome. But there are still some things that do need to improve. And the one thing that I immediately have to bring up is the frequency of three-pointers that the Cavs are taking. Because right now, it's okay. But I talked about how they are the best three-point shooting team in terms of how many three-pointers they're making, the percentage of three-pointers that they're making. They are 16th in attempts. I don't think that's a high enough number. 16th in attempts is not where they should be. Now, they're 7th in makes, but say they drop off a few percentage points. Say they go from 41.1 to 39.5%. So you lose a lot, just over a point and a half off that percentage. But instead of taking 36 threes a game, they're taking 45 threes a game, which is second in the NBA, or even 40 threes a game, which is 4 more than they're taking. But the amount of threes that they are making is going to go up. So I think that is an area where they can improve. I already talked about corner threes. They're generating them really, really well. They're fourth in the NBA, in terms of how many corner threes they are taking per game. But they're 17th in terms of shooting percentage from that spot. That is far too of an efficient shot. And I don't think this is going to be something that lasts forever. The same way I don't think the above the break three percentage is going to last forever. That's going to come down. The corners will go up. It'll even out. But I do think that is an area where they can improve. I think that they can generate more three-point looks. Some of them might be above the break. Some of them might be corner threes. But I think that they can get more of them generated. And as far as three-pointers go, another thing that I do think will correct itself and help to improve this Cavs offense is two guys that I look at in particular. So Dean Wade, I think, has done a good job in the starting lineup. I think he has fit in the starting lineup pretty well alongside, Donovan, Darius, Evan, and Jarrett. But Dean is only shooting 33% from three so far. And it's very early, and there's no reason to freak out or panic over a 5-game sample size of shooting. But I also think Dean Wade is a better shooter than that. I would be surprised if at the end of the year, we're talking about Dean Wade having only shot 33% on looks from outside. That would be something that surprises me. I think there's room for improvement there. And then the other guy is Sam Merrill. Sam's been playing a lot. Sam has, I think, a really good role. It's really great to see Sam get to do more stuff on offense for the Cavs than just stand beyond the arc, catch and shoot threes. He's been much more involved. He's been handling the basketball more. He's had a nice two-man game with Evan Mobley, I think. He's done a lot of really good things. But he's shooting 30% on threes. Sam Merrill is far too good of a shooter for that to be who he is. He is a guy that should be a 40% three-point shooter every year, whether the volume is high, whether the volume is low. He is way too good of a shooter to be shooting 30%. I have very little doubt that number is going to climb up. He's too good of a shooter. He is one of the better shooters like in practice that I've ever watched in the NBA. And I was around when the Cavs had Kyle Korver. And Sam is not at that level. I've not seen anybody else ever at that level, but I also haven't seen very many guys in my time covering basketball that have been above the level Sam is at as a shooter. So he's not going to be a 30% three-point shooter forever. And if that goes up, if that gets better, that kind of makes up for regression that might come in some other areas. One of the other things that I had down that could be an improvement for the Cavs is their offensive rebounding. So a lot of the talk during training camp was that the Cavs wanted to attack the offensive glass more, that they wanted to be a better offensive rebounding team, because if you're a good offensive rebounding team, it's going to lead to a better offense because you're going to create more scoring opportunities. You're going to create more possessions, essentially. Through 5 games, the Cavs are 29th in offensive rebounding. They've not been good at it. They've not figured it out yet. It's not something that they have mastered. It's not something that they have even accomplished at all. I think that is probably the area where they're most disappointed. And of course, that's all relative because they're 5-0. And it's hard to be truly disappointed in very many things. But that is the area where if I had to bet, they're looking at and say, okay, we can make a big jump in this one specific category. Offensive rebounding is probably the category I think they'd be saying right now, just because that has not been there whatsoever. And I don't know that they planned on it to be a really big deal right away. I think that is something that, for as much as it is effort and hustle and grit and stuff like that, I do think there's a skill to offensive rebounding. And I think it's a skill that needs to be learned. And I don't know if guys on the Cavs have it right now. I do wonder if they were healthy, like if Max Strus was on the floor with the starters, how would that look? Would they be better or worse? That is one of the things that I've thought about. And then lastly, the other thing, the Cavs have not been a good free throw shooting team. They're near the bottom of the league in percentage. They're also near the bottom of the league in free throw rate. And for a team that's not shooting a ton of threes, they're shooting 36 threes per game. You'd like to see them be taking more free throws than they are. And I'm willing to say that this is a small sample size thing, especially when you look at the Lakers game where I think they committed 26 personal fouls against the Lakers, and the Lakers were only called for 7 fouls. So I'm willing to let this one slide a little bit longer and see where this is at in a couple of weeks. But that is an area where I think, okay, they should be getting to the line a little bit more than they are. They should be. We'll see if they start to. There was some big injury news, not on the Cavs, but it affects the Cavs, specifically tonight. I'm going to talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticket marketplace. Game Time should be your go-to ticket marketplace because Game Time does what? They take the guesswork out of buying tickets. It can be a very stressful experience when you are searching for tickets. You want to go to an event and you don't know where to go. Well, I'm telling you to go to Game Time because Game Time is going to make your ticket buying experience a better experience than you've had before. One of the things Game Time does that I very much appreciate that they do, they give you the option to toggle on the all-in pricing. I am somebody that I don't want to be surprised at the last moment. I want to know how much I'm going to pay. I want to know where all those taxes, fees. I want to know the breakdown of it, but I don't want to be surprised at the very end. Game Time will tell you, okay, this is going to be the price you see is the final price you're going to pay. That to me makes for a great ticket buying experience. Another thing Game Time does is when you are searching for seats, maybe you're clicking in a few different sections, maybe section 105, maybe section 122, maybe section 201. They will show you what your view of the court or, during baseball season, the field, if you want to go to a Browns game, what the 50-yard line is going to look like. They'll have that inside the app. And that, I think, can kind of put your mind at ease because you can always wonder, man, am I going to actually have good seats? Well, with Game Time, that's not going to be a question. So what I need you to do is download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA and get $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. What time is it? It's Game Time. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. And thank you to you if this is your first time listening to Locked On Cavs. It's been a really fun start to the Cavs season so far. I hope you like what you hear. I hope you come back because I'm doing this show every single day because this is going to be, at least in my opinion, as somebody who's covered basketball for a long time, I think this is going to be one of the more fun regular seasons to cover. I'm super excited to be in the building almost every single night. Like it's really cool just watching this team play such a beautiful brand of basketball. So, like I said, you can find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Let's grow this podcast, baby. Also available on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button if you're watching. Click subscribe and the notification bell as well. So on Thursday night, late Thursday night, I believe ESPN was the first to report that Orlando Magic forward Paolo Banchero is going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks. Now, this is news that immediately impacts the Cavs because it means tonight, if you're watching or listening to this on Friday, November 1st, it means tonight Paolo Banchero will not be playing in the game against the Cavs. And that absolutely changes the equation of what this game looks like because Paolo Banchero, very dangerous player. I think he is a guy that has all NBA teams in his future, but that's not going to happen this year now that he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. And I will say the first few games have probably pushed my standard for the Cavs up a little bit higher than it was. I went into this season thinking they win like 52, 53, maybe 54 games. I think now it's probably closer to 55, 56, maybe 57, and be the 1 or the 2 seed now. But I do think that the Eastern Conference is really, really good. And I think the Eastern Conference is going to be very tightly compact, at least 1 through 6, maybe even 1 through 7. And an injury like this one can absolutely throw a season off the rails. We can see that with the Orlando Magic now. And I think the Cavs are in a really good spot because with what we've seen, and Orlando's got a nice roster and they have some really nice role players, but they don't have the star power the Cavs have. But with what we've seen from the Cavs so far, I instantly saw that update and I thought, okay, what does this look like in Cavs term? And the answer is Donovan Mitchell getting hurt. Where I'm not so sure the Magic can survive a 6-week absence from Paolo Banchero. And the Cavs would not be what the Cavs are right now if Donovan Mitchell missed 4 to 6 weeks. But I think because of the other guys on this roster, I think they'd be able to survive it. And now, as far as the Banchero injury goes, there were some places that thought the Cavs and the Magic would be battling for like the 4th seed. I think this injury that ship sails with this injury. I don't see how that's going to happen anymore. Like, I don't think, and it's not to say that the Magic are not a good basketball team, but I have real difficulty seeing how they're going to finish with a similar record to the Cavs, considering the start that we've seen the Cavs have, and now knowing that Orlando's not going to have its best player for at least 4 weeks, maybe longer. So that's what I think of that. And it does change tonight's game against the Magic. It becomes, a game that the Cavs should have won before, but now it should be a game, okay, go take care of business. This is a game where good teams can win games without their star players. They can step up for a night. It's harder to do for an extended period of time, but they can step up on a nightly basis. Don't let it happen if you're the Cavs. Go out and take care of business. This is, if Monday and Wednesday were the Cavs making statements about how good they are, I think Friday night against Orlando is the opportunity for the Cavs to make a statement and say, we're not going to fall into a trap. And they're 2 very different statements, but I think they're pretty equally important. So we'll see what happens. I will not have a podcast after the game on Friday. I've got a high school football game to coach tonight. I will hopefully be back after the game against the Bucks on Saturday. And then I'll be back Monday with 5 fresh episodes of Locked On Cavs coming your way next week. Probably 6. Probably going to have another whip around show next Monday talking about the Bucks again, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Golden State Warriors, and the Brooklyn Nets too. So we have a fun week next week for the Cavs. They continue the stretch of really tough opponents. We'll see what happens tonight against the Magic. We will see what happens tomorrow against the Bucks. And I can't wait to talk about all of it right here on Locked On Cavs. So like I said, if you're new to the show, you can find Locked On Cavs anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you tell a friend to subscribe. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating too. Also, if you're watching this video on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content coming your way every single